higher tariff questions. So we're looking at text D, and it's a 5-mark question. So we're going to need an extended answer. And again, it looks like the previous longer question, the 2-mark question, in that it's got the word explain. But really the key word here is how. So what techniques are used? What does this payday loan company do to make itself sound responsible and trustworthy? Okay, now one of the first things that you might want to do is just think about what those 2 words mean. What does responsible mean and what does trustworthy mean? So always quite useful to think about some synonyms. Okay, so responsible, we might think of reliable, honest, if we're considering something trustworthy. Other words, let's think. Perhaps respectable. And they might just help us with our answer. So I would be doing some annotation of the kind of keywords of the question before we got going with it. Then, as we've seen, we need to be looking at text D. So here we go, text D, and we're looking for things that make the loan company sound responsible and trustworthy. So straight away, it doesn't take much to see that they call themselves a responsible lender in the very first line. Then underneath that, they use a series of icons and explanations of what they do. That means we can rely on them. And I might be picking out this point, that they assess every application on an individual basis, makes them sound perhaps reliable. We've got the image of a lock here, which is a different technique. It's not words this time, it's a symbol, a little picture. And that lock we know from sort of online security makes them sound quite safe. So responsible, safe. Then we've got words like carefully. They assess all applications carefully. If they're careful, that makes them sound responsible and reliable. Remembering that it's a 5-mark question, so we're looking for a range of points. We've said something about layout, the heading. We've said something about the text here, the words. We've commented on an image. We've commented on another choice of words they've made within this sort of short paragraph. Then this second headline is quite relevant. We don't lend to everyone, you must be. So again, I think that makes them sound quite responsible and respectable. They've got kind of standards here that they have to uphold, and one of those is that you have to be over 18. So they're not going to be irresponsible about lending to kids and lending to people who might make bad decisions with their money. And we also looked at honest, so any examples of honesty. You will need to keep your repayment promise. We lay out the facts as clearly as possible. Okay, so they claim to be honest down there. That, for a 5-mark question, looks like a range of points that we're making. So we'd go back and we'd start writing them up. Now, notice that as we were picking up points, we started at the top of the text and we worked our way down. That's one way of doing it. Or you can always look at what you notice first, so perhaps the heading, then you might notice the images next, and you can do it in that order. But if in doubt, you can always start at the top and work your way down, or start at the left and work your way right, which is how we normally read in English. For this one, I'm going to start at the top and work my way down. So the first thing that I noticed was that the company calls itself now I'm going to embed the quote, responsible lender. After using the quote, I'm always going to give a brief explanation which answers the question, which makes it sound trustworthy and reliable from the start. Nice simple point, but it gets me up and running. Then I'm going to talk about this short paragraph. Following this headline, the advert contains a short paragraph which claims that the company assesses, so I'm going to start my quote here, it assesses every application on an individual basis. The phrase, I want to zoom in on the language a little bit here and talk about the technique. The phrase individual basis makes the company sound, right, what can we say? Responsible, trustworthy, honest, sound fair and careful about its choices. Okay, 2 points so far, one about the heading, one about the short paragraph. So to get a range of points in, I'm going to talk about the lock next. The symbol of a lock next to this, so notice that I'm pointing the reader where to look. The symbol of a lock next to this is a common feature of internet banking and e-commerce and gives the impression that the company is secure and safe to deal with. Right, I want to say a little bit more about this. The reader would associate it with other apps and sites which are also safe to use. Okay, so we've said something about the heading, something about the short paragraph, something about the image. Now we're going to say something about language. The advert uses language for effect, such as we assess all, what was the word? Applications carefully. Now, I know that the word carefully, ending in ly, is an adverb, so I'm going to use that to show some technical awareness. The adverb carefully adds to the sense that the company is safe, secure and trustworthy. So I'm using some of the wording from the question. Right, one more, just to show a full range. I like this one because it's the idea of honesty. So towards the end of the advert, the company claims that we, just going to change that slightly so I can embed the quote, we lay out the facts as clearly as possible. This gives the impression that the company is open and honest in its dealings with the customer. Okay, now if we look at the mark scheme, what we're trying to achieve is this band 5, accurate and perceptive explanations about the full range of features put forward to a test. That means to show the company's reliability or trustworthiness. So we've got full range of things. Well, we've got the heading, we've got use of language, we've got use of symbols, use of language. So might not be the very fullest range. Let's have a look. Have we got 4? Those provide accurate explanations about a range of examples, well-selected textual references, intended effect. Okay, so it's definitely 4. Is it 5? Candidates present well-considered and articulate understanding, not only what the company says, but the language it uses. Okay, well I think we talk about language here, where the adverb carefully, where we've got the phrase individual basis. So we did zoom in on some language, so I'd hope that that would be awarded 5 out of 5. If we check against kind of bullet points of things you might explore, every application, care and attention, yes. Security with the lock, yes. We didn't talk about the customer care team, but you don't have to mention all 5. Seem responsible and check carefully, don't lend to everyone. We mentioned most of those. It's not a checklist, and the question must be marked in levels of response. So I think would certainly be a 4, and we would probably be a 5, depending on generosity at the examiner and what sort of a day they've had.